I work when I work, and I'm a total worker, totally concentrated on that.
With a career that most singers can only dream of, Barbra Streisand has spent over 60 years in the spotlight. Her boundless ability has been recognized with several Oscars, Grammys, Emmys, and even a Tony. Generations have been marked by her strong and distinctive voice. She became a Hollywood star because to her roles in films like Funny Girl and A Star Is Born. She still wishes she could alter something, though, despite all the success. So, what exactly does she look back on and wish she could do differently? When asked about her life, Streisand recently went down for an interview and described it as largely full of pride and nostalgic, happy recollections. Despite her many successes, she couldn't help but feel remorse for one decision she had made. It had nothing to do with a prize she was not named for, and was instead deeply personal and something she carried about with her for a long time. Her biography, early life, and professional accomplishments must be reviewed before we examine this. The birthplace of many famous actors and actresses, Barbra Streisand was Brooklyn, New York on April 24, 1942. But she didn't have a spectacular rise to stardom. Her high school teacher father, Emanuel Streisand, died at the age of 15 months as a result of epilepsy. Diana, her mother, was left trying to sustain the family after this catastrophe. Even though Barbra always wanted to be a singer, her mother always thought she lacked the good looks to make it big. According to an interview Streisand gave to Variety in 2018, she said, "My mother thought I was too ugly to be a star." Instead of discouraging Barbra, this pushed her even more driven to prove themselves. Even though she was reserved as a youngster, her love of music had no bounds. At Erasmus Hall High School, she honed her voice by singing along to the hits of Ethel Merman and Judy Garland. Neil Diamond and her classmates were the first to realize her extraordinary potential. Diamond reminisced about Barbra's towering voice in an interview from 2011 and said that it could shake the walls even then. Streisand didn't do things the typical way, even if she was talented. She began attempting to gain recognized as a performer at local bars at the age of 16, having already determined that education wasn't for her. In 1960, she won a singing contest at Le Bonsoir, a nightclub in Greenwich Village, and it was her big break. Her voice enchanted the crowd, and she quickly became a frequent performer there. She became famous all throughout the country in 1961 after her appearance on Jack Parr's The Tonight Show. She had a supporting part in the musical I Can Get It For You Wholesale, which was staged on Broadway a year after that. Despite not being the star, Streisand garnered a Tony nomination for her performance as Miss Marmalstein. However, her breakout role came in 1964's Funny Girl when she played Fanny Brice and captivated audiences with an emotionally charged performance, particularly of the song People. Not surprisingly, Hollywood took note, and in 1968 she appeared in the film adaptation of Funny Girl. Her performance was so moving that she shared the Best Actress Oscar with Katharine Hepburn, a very unusual occurrence at the Oscars. She was known to glance down at her trophy and recite a movie quote, "Hello, gorgeous," as she won the prize. The late 1960s saw Streisand's rise to stardom as a recording artist as well. Her remarkable voice was on display in albums such as People, 1964, and the Barbra Streisand album, 1963. She refused to conform to societal expectations of beauty by continuing to be herself in the face of pressure to do so. Achieving new heights wasn't the only goal of Streisand's meteoric climb to popularity. As one of the few female artists to achieve simultaneous dominance on Broadway, in Hollywood, and in the music industry, she paved the way for many other performers. Barbra Streisand's long and distinguished film career began in 1968 with her breathtaking film debut, Funny Girl, in which she reprised her Broadway role as Fanny Brice and won the Academy Award for Best Actress. Performing in Hello, Dolly, the next year was Streisand, solidified her position as a major player in the Hollywood industry. Streisand took on yet another challenge in 1976 with her film A Star Is Born, which she co-produced. Not only did she star in it, but she also co-wrote the love theme for Evergreen, which made her the first female to win an Oscar for Best Original Song. Yentl, a film that Streisand had been enthusiastic about for a long time, was her directorial debut in 1983. For a major studio picture, she broke new ground by writing, producing, directing, and starring. Not only did the picture win a Golden Globe for Best Motion Picture, Musical, but it also won an Oscar for Best Original Score. As the first woman to ever collect the Golden Globe for Best Director, Streisand made history with her own victory. Streisand has been a trailblazer in her field thanks to her obsession with excellence and her daring to question convention. She spoke on the difficulties of filming Yentl in an interview with Ladies' Home Journal from 1983, saying, "I was scared to death making Yentl. I was frightened I wouldn't survive it because my father died when he was 35, and I was making this film at the same age." Her intransigence and dogged pursuit of greatness have cemented Streisand's place in Hollywood lore. Relationships in Barbra Streisand's personal life have been just as eventful as those in her illustrious work, shaping her path without ever taking center stage. Performing artist Streisand wed Elliott Gould in 1963. In 1966, Jason was born to the couple. Unfortunately, their relationship suffered as a result of their meteoric rise to prominence. They split up in 1969 and eventually divorced in 1971. Gould reflected on his relationship with Barbra and felt that they never progressed because she became more important than us. After Streisand's divorce, she began dating John Peters, a man who had once worked as a hairdresser but became a film producer. In 1976, Peters produced Streisand's film A Star Is Born, marking the beginning of their personal and professional collaboration. An interview from 2017 by Peters, in which he called Streisand probably the love of his life, emphasized the profound bond the two had. John Peters, Streisand's ex-boyfriend, was one of several guests at a dinner party in 1996 when she met actor James Brolin. Streisand said how she was first timid and preferred to hang out with the kids at the party before moving on to the adults after meeting her blind date. They were married on July 1, 1998, after an instantaneous romance. After more than 20 years of marriage, Streisand and Brolin are still very close. The importance of open dialogue and mutual regard was highlighted by Streisand in an interview she gave in 2021 about her relationship with her husband. Although Streisand's romantic life was significant, it was never the driving force behind her. She prioritized her work and personal growth above all else, viewing love more as a means to an end than an end in itself. Streisand discussed her dedication to self-fulfillment and creative expression in an open interview with Oprah Winfrey, where she also touched on the need of maintaining a healthy work-life balance. Love has been an important part of Streisand's life, but her unfaltering commitment to her work and self-improvement has always come first. This exemplifies the idea that love may enhance but never dictate a person's path through life. Barbra Streisand, whose voice is considered to be among the best of all time, suffered from severe stage anxiety for about 30 years. The terrifying incident in 1967, when she performed in front of 150,000 people at a performance in New York Central Park and completely lost the words to a song, served as the catalyst for this. She avoided the demands of commercial concerts and shied away from live performances for 27 years after the exposure. During that time, she sang at free fundraisers. For decades, she was unable to even listen to the audio of the Central Park concert due to her extreme anxiety. In an interview conducted in 2018, Streisand disclosed, "I never performed for 27 years because of that." The defining moment occurred when she went to a private party and witnessed Liza Minnelli play in a living room. Streisand started to reevaluate her own worries after being inspired by Minnelli's bravery to perform in such an intimate setting. After some reflection, she said, "I thought, my God, look how she gets up and sings in front of these people, even with the lights on." Streisand made a triumphant comeback to concert touring in 1994, with a string of highly praised and economically successful shows in Triumph. Her capacity to face and conquer personal obstacles was on full display during her comeback tour, which also highlighted her lasting brilliance. While Streisand acknowledged that her fearful upbringing caused her to lose out on many opportunities, she also used this time to develop other facets of her acting and directing careers. During this time, she made a triumphant return to public performances, demonstrating her immense artistic strength. Streisand achieved a major step in her fight against stage fright in 2012, when, for the first time since childhood, she performed in her birthplace of Brooklyn. The performance served as a moving tribute to her heritage, while also commemorating the development she has undergone over her career. Barbra Streisand's perseverance and commitment to her art are on full display in her story of overcoming stage fear and returning to live engagements. Her story is an encouragement since it shows that even famous artists have to overcome obstacles in their lives to become even better. At the beginning of her career, Streisand went under the name Barbra Streisand instead of Barbara Jones. Originally from Brooklyn, New York, she eliminated the second A from Barbara when she was 18 years old. She was born on April 24, 1942. Without going through with a full name change, this was one approach to finding one's own identity. Keeping the meaning of her given name while setting herself apart in the entertainment world, she remarked, "I hated the name, but I refused to change it. Well, I was 18 and I wanted to be unique, but I didn't want to change my name because that was too false." By deleting the extra A, she managed to do both. Streisand has always been vocal about how her surname should not be pronounced with a Z sound, like in Strand. Instead, it should be pronounced like sand on the beach. In 2016, when she noticed that Siri, Apple's digital assistant, pronounced her name wrong, Streisand recalled, "Siri pronounces my name wrong. And so what did I do? I called the head of Apple, Tim Cook, and he delightfully agreed to have Siri change the pronunciation of my name." This anecdote speaks volumes about her dedication to protecting her name. Streisand sought a middle ground between conformity and uniqueness by changing her name. She made a tiny change that would become famous in the entertainment industry, giving her a distinct identity. Her diligent efforts to maintain her own brand are further demonstrated by her proactive attempt to making sure her surname is pronounced correctly. With a career spanning decades in music, cinema, and theater, Barbra Streisand is among the most acclaimed artists in the annals of entertainment. Her exceptional talent has been recognized with several accolades, including Golden Globes, Grammys, and Oscars. Nevertheless, Streisand has freely discussed her decisions, acknowledging that there were times she wishes had turned out differently, despite her success. In her autobiography, My Name is Barbra, Barbra discusses her life in detail, touching on topics such as the regrets she has over declining big-screen jobs and the exhaustion she feels from being an actress. The what-ifs and self-doubt that come with celebrity are something that Streisand has been forthright about discussing. The fact that Streisand turned down parts in films that later became blockbusters is one of her greatest professional regrets. The New York Times published an interview she gave in 2013 in which she acknowledged receiving main roles in 3 films: Julia, 1977, The Turning Point, 1971, and Cabaret, 1972. She hadn't thought these projects were a good fit for her at the time, but after learning that Bob Fosse would direct Cabaret, Alan J. Pakula would direct The Turning Point, and Fred Zinnemann would direct Julia, she regretted not getting to work with these legendary filmmakers. Actress Liza Minnelli won an Oscar for her performance as Sally Bowles in Cabaret, and Jane Fonda won an Oscar for her role in The Turning Point. If I had known that the directors were going to be Bob Fosse, Alan J. Pakula, and Fred Zinnemann, I would have said yes immediately. She acknowledged that the parts she turned down ended up going to other renowned actresses. Even as her friends have succeeded, Streisand has never harbored resentment toward them. Although she expressed her satisfaction with the performances given by her companions Liza Minnelli and Jane Fonda, it is evident that these decisions continue to bother her. Famously fastidious, Streisand's quality has served her well, but has made her work as an actress quite draining. Working in the background, particularly as a director, has been emotionally taxing for her, as she has acknowledged throughout the years. In her autobiography, she opens up about the challenges of directing and the time and energy needed to launch a film. She detailed how the pressures of Hollywood, where she felt like she was always at odds with studios and critics over her artistic choices, sapped her energy. A perfect illustration of this was her experience directing Yentl in 1983. In addition to starring, co-writing, producing, and directing, she gave her everything to the picture. Despite the film's critical and commercial success, Hollywood insiders were skeptical of the picture because they weren't prepared for a female filmmaker to handle a movie of this scale. Streisand said afterwards that she had second thoughts about directing again because of how tough it was to handle the response. "I was always fighting for creative control," she told People during an interview. "It's exhausting to always have to prove yourself." Streisand has expressed grave sorrow about the immense strain she subjected herself to over her career. From the beginning, she was a stickler for detail and would frequently go to extraordinary measures to guarantee that her work was error-free. Although she became a legend as a result of her determination, it also caused her to feel exhausted and doubt herself at times. Because she would fixate on every detail, she frequently felt sort of sick of myself after completing projects, as she said in an interview with Variety. Not only that, but her almost 100-page book took years to write and revise, during which she doubted if the effort had been worthwhile in her pursuit of the ideal narrative structure. She may be ready for a quieter life since she has dropped hints about leaving the limelight in recent years, saying, "I think I've done enough," she continued. "I want to spend time with my family, my dogs, and just enjoy the simple things." Streisand has acknowledged mistakes in her personal life in addition to her professional ones. She has been happily married to actor James Brolin since 1998. However, she has acknowledged that her business aspirations frequently obstruct her previous marriages. She has a history of love relationships that include Warren Beatty, Ryan O'Neal, and even Pierre Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada. Nevertheless, there were instances when her commitment to her career overshadowed her ability to sustain meaningful relationships. She writes in her memoir on how she struggled to commit completely to love since she sometimes prioritized her work above all else. "I was always so focused on the next project that I didn't always appreciate what I had at the moment," said the woman. Barbra Streisand has had an incredible career despite her regrets. She altered the entertainment world forever, won many prizes, and smashed records. But it's encouraging to see Streisand, who has achieved such great success, admit that she too has doubts, wasted opportunities, and regrets about the choices she could have made. Her forthrightness in discussing these instances serves to enhance her character by revealing that, underneath her renown and honors, there is a woman who, like to the rest of us, laments the decisions she did not accomplish. Even though Streisand has some regrets, her impact on the worlds of music, cinema, and theater is unparalleled. Whether it's her revolutionary directing work, her memorable lines like "Hello, Gorgeous" at the Oscars, or her strong performances, Barbra Streisand has made an indelible impression on the world. Perhaps, just maybe, some of those what-ifs contributed to shaping the Barbra Streisand that we all know and love today. It is certain that Barbra Streisand's initial encounter with President John F. Kennedy will live on in memory. At the White House Correspondents' Dinner on May 24, 1963, an up-and-coming star took the stage among the assembled most influential Americans in the nation's capital. That performance cemented Streisand's position as an upcoming star in the industry. She was already a beloved figure in the industry at the tender age of 21. Following her performance, she got in line with all the other VIPs eager to see the president. The planned length of these meetings was a handshake and some small talk, but Kennedy felt the need to speak out as Streisand advanced. He remarked on her singing voice and wanted to know how long she had been performing for. "About as long as you've been president," Kennedy chuckled, evidently entranced by Streisand's charisma as she delivered a witty retort. Then came the awkward part. Even though it had been specifically instructed that attendees not ask for signatures, Streisand couldn't help but give in. After the meal, she requested Kennedy to sign a card for her mom. In response, he returned it, and she said the words, "You're a doll," without thinking. Streisand spoke up about her admiration for Kennedy, saying that she regarded him as a rock star. Regrettably, she misplaced the autographed card even before reaching her residence that evening. One tangible memento of her meeting with the president from that night is the gown she wore to the event. The 1983 film Yentl, in which Barbra Streisand co-starred, marked Barbra's directing debut. A young Jewish lady studies religion in this film while pretending to be a male. For the role of Avigdor, Yentl's romantic interest, Mandy Patinkin was hired. But things became heated between the two performers while filming was underway. After 1 week of filming, Streisand observed a shift in Patinkin's manner. He no longer looked interested in her and couldn't look her in the eyes. To talk about it in private, she gave him permission to use her dressing room. Patinkin revealed to Streisand, "I thought we were going to have a more personal relationship." This caught her off guard because she had not been led to believe that he felt this way. He went on to say, "I thought we were going to have an affair." This came as a shock to Streisand, who was seeing producer John Peters at the time. She said, "I looked at him as if he were crazy. I would never have an affair with an actor I was directing." Since she didn't want to offend him, she just said, "I don't operate that way." As Patinkin sobbed, Streisand understood that he felt ignored and that he wasn't getting the attention he wanted. After that, she gave him a stern reprimand and threatened to cast someone else in the film unless he changed his ways. Patinkin subsequently said that he was first terrified and gave her a hard time on set. This was years ago. Due to her bad relationship with Patinkin, Streisand opted not to film the scheduled love scene between Yentl and Avigdor, and instead rewrote it. Thinking back on it, she questioned if she should have let the audience feel that moment, and whether her anger at Patinkin had gotten the best of her. Yentl was published in 1983 and garnered great praise despite these obstacles. Not only did the picture take home an Oscar for Best Original Song Score, but Streisand made history as the first female director to ever get a Golden Globe for Best Director for her work on the project. The intricacies of on-set dynamics and the difficulties Streisand had as a first-time director are brought to light by this incident. Her skill as a filmmaker and the film's popularity were both aided by her ability to overcome these challenges. Not even Barbra Streisand, a living superstar, never feels remorse. Despite her immense success in the fields of music, cinema, and activism, she too occasionally asks, "What if?" This serves as a reminder that our lives are filled with choices, some of which we celebrate and others of which we doubt. No one could ever take away her perfectionist streak, her determination to forge her own path, or the battle she fought for creative control over her works. Even Streisand can't get her hands on anything. She exemplifies the fact that even renowned individuals have doubts and contemplate matters. Like everyone else, she probably wondered if her many failures were the result of squandered professional or personal opportunity. In addition to her immense musical and cinematic skill, Barbra Streisand has long been a vocal advocate for LGBTQ+ and feminist causes, leveraging her celebrity to bring attention to important social justice concerns. Streisand has been an outspoken feminist since the beginning of her career. She cemented her position as a trailblazer for generations of women who want to break into the traditionally male-dominated film industry when she starred as the lead writer, producer, director, and star in the 1983 film Yentl. The LGBTQ+ community has a long and intimate history with Streisand. During her early performances at places like the Bondswank in New York City's West Village and the Lion, a homosexual club, she remembers in her biography, "My name is Barbra," on how queer audiences were among the first to acknowledge and appreciate her skill. The LGBTQ+ community and Streisand became close because of their early support. Her support for LGBTQ+ equality has been consistent throughout her career. Along with a pre-recorded statement requesting assistance for LGBTQ+ community centers during the epidemic, she made an appearance in the 2020 GLAAD's Together in Pride, You Are Not Alone live stream event. Political involvement has caused friction in Hollywood on occasion. Streisand has been outspoken in her criticism of some politicians and policies, which has caused her to clash with her colleagues in the business. She writes about her political views and the difficulty of juggling a profession with firm ideas in her memoir. Streisand sees her advocacy work as an essential part of who she is. Thus, she stays firm in her stance regardless of the controversy surrounding it. Her dedication to social problems mirrors her creative endeavors, revealing a profound faith in fairness and equality. Still, Streisand has achieved some measure of contentment. She has discussed the delight of reflecting on her achievements rather than lamenting her failures. She is free to live her life as she pleases, has a legacy that will go beyond her, and is married to love. We are not defined by our regrets, no matter how long they last. Living a life to the fullest despite the inevitable regrets is what counts most, as Streisand's narrative demonstrates. For more amazing tales about Hollywood's biggest superstars, subscribe to the channel and hit that like button if you loved this in-depth look at Streisand's life. If you don't want to miss any updates, just hit the notification bell. Leave a comment telling us what you think about her. Please return for our next video. We appreciate you taking the time to watch.